Alright, so we've seen a few examples of a critical build and examples of a strength build. Now, what are the pros and cons? Basically, how do the two compare to each other? Well, I've already mentioned critical builds are pretty much cheaper to maintain and cheaper to get. Um, like the katana and the grinder are the two cheapest 100-point proficiency weapons that I've seen around. Um, all the other ones cost like over a million or more. Like the Alpha Bowl is like 1.4 million if you can sell it. The I don't know what the XM25 is. I haven't taken a look lately, but I do know pretty much for under a million, like even under 500,000, you can usually get your hands on a grinder or a katana or a battle axe. So it's very rather cheap, easy to do. It doesn't require as many stat points. You only have to max out one stat, not two. Um, for instance, if you're using like a melee base one and you pick up a katana, the only requirement that thing has is 80 critical. Once you have 80 critical, the weapon's already functioning at its full potential. No other training can, no further training can't improve it, unless additional critical training for when you get injured. But that's neither here nor there. Um, so critical build is cheaper and easier, but in the long run, you'll never be as powerful. You're basically shooting yourself in the foot if you go with a critical build. I happen to go with the critical build mostly because I think it's more fun, but it is a bit of a challenge. And for example, what is a good example? Yeah, a lot of the weapons aren't that terrific for high aggro combat, and yeah, so and then a strength build. Strength builds, their downside is that they require strength, a lot of it, and the now critical build, the stat requires critical directly impacts the functioning of the weapon. Strength build, it's a stat requirement. That's it. Strength training right now doesn't do anything. Like you'd think it would do something like like improve melee damage or something like that, but it doesn't. All right, it's used as a weapon proficiency, and that's about it. So the strength build requires 100 points total in a stat that doesn't affect your gameplay in any way, other than a jump through the hoop requirement, and it does require a lot of reloading before the weapon can be most effectively used. Um, but it does have the pro of you are a lot. It'll be a lot easier for you to get into the dust shop, and the high strength training does give you access to some of the best armors in the game. So I guess it does kind of have a point after all. But yeah, better armor, more powerful weapons, but it's more expensive, and you need to be a much higher level to fully pull it off. Now, yes, that's strength builds, that's critical builds. You can pick one that whichever one meshes best with your gameplay. You want to be the stealthy ninja or that guy that can live on 1,000 in-game dollars a week. Then go with the critical build. If you want to be Sir Rambo, kick ass, and just stand there and blow zombies away and be that guy that everybody wants to play with at the outpost attack, go with the strength build. Alright, and now what discussion on builds would be complete without a discussion of hybrid builds? Now, a hybrid build is when you've trained both critical and strength. Basically, it's for people who want to combine the basically want to combine critical based weapons with strength based weapons, which is more or less difficult. I pulled up a couple examples for you. Here's the first one, Nikki. I believe she runs an OA service of some sort. At least that's where I got the image from. And you'll notice she's trained strength and reloading like you'd expect, but critical hit is also up to 79. Which, given that her critical base weapons are, well, her best critical base weapon is the Raging Bull here, and that only requires 80, so that's pretty close, I have to say. Um, so I'm guessing she can kind of pull that off with the M60 and the um, Raging Bull here. But the typewriter, though, that I'm not so sure how that well that's going to work with that low of a critical hit. She may as well get rid of it and get an assault rifle. Ammo might be a little bit cheaper. It'll definitely work better. Um, but I don't know. I don't know whatever her reasons are. You'll notice that she has almost no endurance training. Keep that in mind as we move on. Next, we move on to this guy, level 45, trying to pull off pistol shotgun. He's got a Mossberg 500 and the Desert Eagle, and a machete. So I guess it's more like shotgun, pistol, and melee all at the same time. Um, So if you'll take a look, you'll see strength 100, so he can use quite a bit of stuff. Accuracy 72, critical at 97. 97 means that his Desert Eagle and his Machete are going to be working pretty well. But notice that his reloading is not instantaneous, and it's going to take quite a bit of training before it is. Also notice the agility is 45. Again, keep that in mind as well. Then we move on to everybody's favorite, Mafahai, one of the current moderators. Don't know if she doesn't count as an admin, but she is currently one of the lead moderators, and she's combining, I guess, since she's a really high level, combining shotgun, machine gun, and pistol, and explosive. And looks like she started it on melee. Current weapons are GAU, USA 12, and a Dusk Enforcer. Now, notice stats 100 strength, 124 reloading, 124 endurance, well, and then critical hit 80 for the Dusk Enforcer. Now, notice these. There's one recurring theme you'll see in all of these, even Mafahai. Sorry to say it, ma'am. You'll notice that if the strength build was a stat hog, this is a stat T-Rex. You have to divide points between critical, strength, and reloading. All of them. Now, admittedly, critical hit and reloading, better example we move over here, will improve your weapons in general. However, it does require a lot of points to be put into these. So, for instance, in Nikki's case, her endurance has suffered heavily. I'm wondering, like, I'm guessing she has no training endurance whatsoever. That the only bonus is coming from her armor. In the case of Jeremy, his critical hit is good at the cost of his reloading ain't that great, and he moves very slowly. Low agility. Low agility, and he doesn't have instant reload that his strength weapons require. In Mafahai's case, level 141, and she still only has 75 agility, a good chunk of which I'm assuming comes from her Dusk Reactive armor. Say it's I'm guessing it's God-crafted, which would mean that her real agility is more like 51. It's only 51 base agility. Even a level 141 does have a few downsides to pulling off this build. So if you'll take a look at hybrid builds, ironically enough, they are very powerful builds once you can get them to work, but in order to get them to work, you have to be at least level 40, if not higher. And even if you are level 40, it's still not performing at 100%. Like even with 104 reloading, that's not instant reload for an M60. Excuse me. So basically, your stats will suffer. Ironically enough, even though hybrid builds, in theory, are very powerful and get to high level, a lot of players will try to do that at the start. It's a very common mistake. I probably should have pulled up an example. But I don't know. Oh, here, you know what is a good example? Is a friend of mine. We'll go to good old Wolface. He's going to kill me for this, but this is a prime example of what not to do with your proficiencies. He's done it's basically a classic new player mistake, is they only see grays at the start when they're out like in the very close inner city. So they try to put points into everything. He's got machine guns to 25, shotguns to 10, rifles to 55, pistols to 25, melee to 15. His stats are all over the place. Machine guns, shotguns, those are strength-based weapons for the most part. Rifles, pistols, melee, those are that. And you'll see here, these stats don't work with anything. Even the strength-based weapons, there's not enough. They need some stats to work well, and he hasn't got it. So basically, this is an example of a failed attempt at a critical build, mostly because it's too low of a level, and because he's wrecked hell with his proficiencies. But here's an example what a lot of new players will try to do. They'll try to train a little bit of everything, or they may get misled. For instance, he's a police officer. I don't know off the top of my head of a good example for this. Oh, actually, never mind.